So thank you guys for checking out the Kingdom Revival podcast. Either it's online through YouTube or Spotify or iTunes podcast, whichever way you're getting it. You're definitely going to be blown away. I was blown away just even meeting this beautiful person, Kimla. You can call her Kim for short. Her friends call her Kim, so I call her Kim. And so Kim, hello.
Hey Anwar, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. I'm not going to waste any time. I was just going to ask you right off the bat. Can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you feel you're called to do here?
hmm Yeah, I think we're so many different aspects of the divine. And so right now in this, person that occupies this body, um, I'm a hypnotherapist and I work with individuals on mostly connecting with their higher self, their higher purpose, and translating that energy of that source energy, God
Mm,
energy, into and grounding it to the planet.
mm.
So that's my work right now.
That's beautiful. And actually, I forgot to do what I told you I'd do. That was my fault. So we'll actually, that's a good branch off. We'll pray real quick into that. So, Lord Jesus, I just thank you for my sister. And what I do know is that, Lord, you're freeing people and that God, each and every one of us has a mission, a call, and something that's important, that's higher than ourselves. Lord, we thank you for Kim. And Lord, I pray that we would be ready and willing to understand, to see through to the other side what it is we're supposed to be learning right now. Amen. So continue. I cut you off, and or maybe we'll transition. How did you start getting into hypno? Like, where does this all begin? Were you a counselor first, and then, or how does that all work out?
Yeah. So I actually worked for about 30 years as an environmental engineer and a mediation consultant. So I worked on eventually, over the course of 30 years, I worked on high stakes claims, environmental claims, mediating them and raising money within the mediation to clean up big sites, like a big Superfund site. So $1 billion cleanup, and we would have
Exxon
to.
Mobil type stuff. Is that what we're talking
Exactly.
about?
Yeah. Yep.
Environmental
Yep.
disasters. Okay.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. So
companies got to pay. They got to foot the bill. I got you.
that's right. That's right. So we looked at all the information, the data, ran through a procedure, a process that sometimes would take over 10 years and
Wow.
come up with a proposed calculation for who should pay what within that mediation process.
Nice.
So all along that, though, like when I first grew up, I thought I was raised Catholic, and I thought I was going to be a nun. I was always really drawn to uh, Jesus's life and that of the saints, and so I was very spiritual or consciousness oriented all through going through school and even work. Um, I studied and practiced a lot within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. I studied meditation and epistemology, which is just the study of the mind.
Can
It's
we
something.
just, I'm sorry, just 2 seconds. Can you just give me like 1 minute or other people 1 minute of what meditation looks like and
Mhm.
just what that does to the body, you know?
Sure. Yeah. So it really calms the mind. And it does a lot of different things. It's really like uh, it allows for one and illuminates one's true nature. That's at its highest purpose. So
Nice.
finding the God within. So there's lots of different ways of connecting to that and knowing that truth. And so
Mm,
meditation allows for, if you can think about maybe this glass of water here, right? This
mm,
glass of water with a lot of sediment in it. And so imagine the sediment gets kicked up and spread around, and
mm,
then that's like our mind. Our mind is that way. It's like the kicked up sediment where once
Yeah.
you can be calm and learn to be listening, maybe even listening to the God within,
Hmm.
that sediment comes down to the bottom, and the glass and the water in it is clear and
Hmm.
it's unobscured, so we can really find that divinity within ourselves. So there's
Wow.
just various practices that are taught to allow for you to calm your presence and see how your mind and heart, it's really your heart, how that works.
Hmm. So then you were learning meditation and practicing with Tibetan monks and learning stillness, learning oneness, learning the breath, right?
Yeah.
Learning to find your breath. And then what next?
So along the way, I went on a pilgrimage, and that pilgrimage um, to Mount Kailash, which is in Tibet, and it's
Hmm.
you go up to a height of about 18,400 feet.
Hmm.
And at that place, I heard that I should leave my business, my professional practice, and move into healing, energy
Hmm.
healing. And I was guided by those higher beings to learn how to perform Reiki, so hands-on healing.
Right.
So yeah,
Right. And that, I guess one thing I'll throw out there is that what scientists understand, what doctors understand, is that there's a lot more going on around us than what we can realize. And the body is producing energy fields, not just at the brain level, but at the heart level. And I don't know if it's 18 meters or 18 feet, but there's a range around our bodies that we're producing at all times. But it seems like what the science suggests is that the field gets heavier, thicker, bigger once there's more oneness. And like you said, the sediment is settled and the
mhm,
water. And that water is so funny. We'll probably never get to the end of it, but it's interesting that we're 70% or 80% water, right? And when we feel like our waters are pure, there's more activity. We got more action going on, right? So then, after you were there, you heard a word. Did you act on it right away?
I did actually, and it's funny, Anwar, because I think part of the practice of prayer or meditation is in getting confidence and trust around the information
Yeah,
you're receiving, and differentiating it between higher energy and information and lower energy and information, right?
right.
So
Like stuff that's like not consequential universally. That's more for you.
yeah. And so I did at that point, because I had been a long time meditator and energy practitioner and understood my own energy system. I had a lot of confidence that the guidance I was getting was from a higher source than me.
Hmm.
And so and when I got home, I saw a cloud that was a dragon, and
Hmm.
in Eastern culture, the dragon is equivalent to wisdom. And
Oh yeah, the
so
year of the dragon.
immediately, yeah. So I saw that dragon and knew that it was connected with this uh, guidance to get to learn
Hmm.
to learn and practice energy healing. So then I proceeded with doing that, and started teaching at the Monroe Institute, an energy medicine course. It's not too far from here where you and I are.
Yeah, I've
And it's
heard
a
of the Monroe Institute. They
yeah.
teach people also telepathy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
There's
and
nothing. Yeah.
yeah, so it works with the subtle energy system. A lot of their practices are just an awareness practices around the subtle energy body, which and that's where I learned to do biofield imaging, which takes images, biophotons
Mhm.
that are come off of that subtle energy field, the energy field that you made reference to earlier, and
Right.
that I've shared with you your energy field that we captured during your
Mm-hmm.
session, and the before and after, so you can see
Yeah.
how the energy shifted and what changed
Mm-hmm.
within your system,
Yeah.
because of
And
the work you did.
can you give me a quick run? Well, oh man, I'm so excited about what you did with me. I want to tell people about it, but maybe I'm jumping the gun. I wanted to know, when did you know, how did hypnosis like, take me from hypnosis, and then also you're trusting your source of information here, entities, angel, I think they're angels, but
Yeah.
you're trusting the source. When does it all then, when do you take your confidence, the trusted source, and then it's like I'm like, because I saw your website. I mean, it takes time to do that. So like, when do you, jump right into that? How does that work?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm doing the Reiki healing, and I'm learning about the energy system of myself and how to heal others. I'm understanding how the hand chakras work, how non-local healing works, and practicing that.
Hmm.
And so, I had this, I'll just go back a moment, because
Hmm.
just to give you a sense of the paradigm shift for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
I trained I always had like, felt like I was here to serve, like many of us feel like we're here to serve, right? And
Hmm.
I was very much a materialist. I did meditation, but I didn't really have a sense of a subtle energy system. I had
Yeah.
heard about it from my teachers.
Yeah.
I couldn't feel it. But then, I went to India in 2014, and I was with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I was
Hmm.
receiving empowerment from him, and at that time, um, I was just a good little practitioner,
Receiver.
and
Yeah.
yeah. So, still no sense of energy. But then the last night, the full moon of that initiation, you're supposed to lay down and do a dream yoga practice, which I did. And
Yeah.
you know, wild, because in that dream yoga practice, I woke up, my consciousness woke up in a dreamscape where I was in a different dimension, so
Hmm.
kind of like, if you know the book Flatland, and the way that
Hmm.
uh, Edwin Abbott talks about the experience. I mean, it's a work of fiction, but my experience was very much like that. You're not in Kansas anymore. You wake
Hmm.
up in another dimension, and you're like, where am I? I don't know. This is more
Wow.
than what I understand as
How are you
reality.
gonna get back, baby?
I know. So I look up, and I'm basically a puppy, right? In this dimension, and these giant wisdom beings, which they tell me they're 11th dimensional beings. They just have an outline and a shape, and as far as I can look up, I don't see the end of them. So there's two of them there. And they tell me, I'm like a puppy to them, and they want me to know that I'm loved, and that I can relax, that I don't have to take everything so seriously. And they
Hmm.
said, you're just on your path. You're going to learn a lot of things. You're going to be in
Hmm.
our wisdom tradition, and this is where we're going to work with you. And they sent me on my way. And so from that moment, after that, Anwar, after that experience where my mind, and I, was completely ungrounded in the beginning, because I was like, I don't even understand what reality is about now, right? Because I thought I had it all figured out. And I
Hmm.
came back and really didn't understand. I knew there was so much more that I had to learn and had to kind of
Yep.
discover on my own, right?
Hmm.
And so that really changed the paradigm for me, where then I started to understand that there was a lot beyond my comprehension. There was a lot that I didn't know and that I was going to learn. And I started having experiences of telepathy and having experiences of feeling my chakras. And it was quite different for this engineer, you know, who just like worked on sewer systems and other kinds of
Yes.
environmental disasters to start feeling my central channel and all of my chakras. And so that really woke me up in a way that I think in the West we're not really prepared for,
Mm,
because there's not a strong sort of handoff of like, this is what that system looks like and this is how
mm-hmm,
this works, right? And so part of my work at Monroe was really understanding how can we take these knowings of how our energy, our subtle energy body, how it
mm-hmm,
expresses itself, how it is just an electromagnetic field, and how does it entrain with others so that we like can feel other people's feelings, and we can use that information to help them heal and to grow ourselves and to grow in love, unconditional love.
nice, nice. So here we are in 2015 now, I guess 2016. I mean, the hypnosis practice that you have now, how long has it been running for you? Or it's not,
So
that's not the only thing you do, but you tell me what you
right.
do. Sorry, let me let you.
Yeah, I mean, the hypnosis practice is, I find, and you've done the session, and I've just found that out of all of the modalities that I'm familiar with, it is the most efficacious. It has the
Mm,
greatest potential for the individual to see this higher aspect, to feel like and
mm,
know, which is
mm,
the more important quality, is to know this divinity within ourselves, that we're connected to the divine at all times, and to how
yeah.
to have a conversation with source and to with angelic realms or these higher
Mm,
realms. How do we get information from them and how do we use that? So the hypnosis is really opening up these levels of consciousness so that we
mm,
can easily go there with our mind and our heart, and
mm,
trust the information and trust ourselves in the as the receiver or as the channel of the information,
mm,
and be grounded to the information. You know what? I think we all know people who kind of get into these territories and they become unstable because they're
mm,
not grounding it to the earth. Their mission is
mm,
to ground this energy to the earth.
mm,
And they kind of get stuck in those realms and start kind of maybe not understanding the reason for that. It's
mm,
not about them, but it's really about
mm.
how do we heal the collective? How do we assist the
Yeah.
collective in its ascension process? So,
Yeah,
um,
it's funny you mentioned that. I'll say um I started to notice more happening when I understood the information, but I actually put it into practice. Um, and it's not, and it was interesting because as I was hearing more information, it was, the angels were saying, this is not something you earn. There's nothing in a book that I had to read. And in fact, it's so interesting, when you get gifts in the eternal realms, they're not revoked. It's like you get the gift and you have to steward it, and you can mess up, while using it, but it's like it's there, and it's like the word confidence comes to mind when I think about, after you go there and you have such an amazing experience, you say, is it over? Like, I want to come back to Disney World every day. And, in my personal life, every day something has been happening, and I it's unexplainable. And so how do people, I guess my question is, how do people ground? How do you not not go crazy, but how do you start to differentiate between what it is you're hearing, seeing, feeling? Because when it starts to get weird when you start to tell other people, and they see it too, but they can't
yeah,
explain it.
yeah.
So yeah. So what do you what's your
How to
take?
ground in there. Yeah. So, there's lots of ways to ground it. I think the most important concept is to know that you're here to ground it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The aspect of you that is in a higher dimension, that is a higher being, an angelic equivalent, for example, the
Mm-hmm.
part of you that is an angel, right? Because we're a
Mm-hmm.
continuity of consciousness. This is what those wisdom beings showed me at the 11th dimension. That I'm
Mm-hmm.
like the puppy version of them, right? In this
Mm-hmm.
body, I'm like this, maybe cute,
Mm-hmm.
like puppy, but they're up there and they have a very different experience of reality.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
so, but our job, our work is really to take that wisdom aspect or the
Mm-hmm.
compassion aspect,
Mm-hmm.
and take it and ground it on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really up to you and me and all of the healers out there to figure out what the best way of doing that is. That's why,
Mm-hmm.
I had this experience in 2019 of where sometimes you get a new guide, like a
Mm-hmm.
new, you're in a new paradigm or your work is
Mm-hmm.
done. So in my experience, my work was done with the Tibetan Buddhist
Mm-hmm.
um, hierarchy, right? I was done in 2019, and I woke
Yeah.
up in the middle of the night, and this face came up in front of me, and it was an old wizardy kind of looking guy, like long beard, white, but it was a cartoon version of this
Mm-hmm.
energy,
Mm-hmm.
probably just so it didn't scare me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I said, well, who are you? What are you? And it said, I'm Melchizedek, right? And I didn't know what
The
that was at the
Melchizedek
time.
order.
Yeah. And they said, well, I'm your guide. This energy is now kind of your guide, and we're pretty hands off. So it's for you to
Mm-hmm.
figure out. And if you need us, we're here for you. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, I understood that, it's really up to us as individuals to figure out how to translate this higher energy, how to
Mm-hmm.
heal in the way that we can heal on
Yeah.
earth and help others to heal. And so that was the message of Melchizedek, which I since had learned that was like Jesus was in the order of Melchizedek, right?
He's the
So,
high priest of that order. Yeah.
right. So, and I think he came in as like a cartoon character just so I wouldn't like be
Yeah.
afraid or,
The
you know,
entities understand they look bizarre to us, and they understand our emotional structures are jacked up too. Because we have to, we're not the strongest creatures here, you know.
right. Right.
Um, what's so funny is as you were speaking, I was reminded of um, the fact that I've also had a similar experience. Even I think it was this week where I'm asking Holy Spirit, angels. At this point, it's like you understand voices, but you understand it's like layered into the source. And I'm getting like this bit from this angel, but he's already direct, and say it's just being distilled because I can't handle the voice of God. You know what I'm
That's right.
saying? Like that frequency would burn me up. And so we to get that info, that purest form of energy, it has to be distilled through other entities to share the right amount of information too for what we can handle.
That's
Because
right.
if I tell an ant, hey, if you go to Florida and set up shop, you can be the biggest. It's like what, you know, I got this little patch of like sand over here. I'm good.
Yeah.
And at a certain point though, what the Lord's been He showed me today is that some of the ants are picking up on a different frequency, and it's like things are colliding, and that's where the dissonance is in people's lives. I mean, I've had a lot of grace. I think what I could understand was that it's almost like it's like a soft landing. I've had so much trauma care, so much going on where I've learned to meditate, all that stuff. And I know that it's an unseen realm. I'm not surprised if something happens, if something falls off the bookshelf, or if I'm walking in the street and somebody drops their coffee. things are like bumping into each other, and it's like in threes. I've been counting, okay, 1, 2, 3, and then everything sets. And it's
Right.
little stuff like dropping my pen. When something out of the ordinary has happened, I've been noticing, okay, there's a reset, it's fixing itself, but there's ripples. It's like there's almost ripples in the time space continuum, and we're noticing, and it's almost like we're guiding people to start to understand. And some people aren't understanding, they won't, but some of the people that are around us, we're trying to say, hey, get on the boat, like, because really for us to be where we're supposed to be, what the Lord was saying, and he was actually breaking relationships. He was pulling people out of situations that they shouldn't have been anyways, but they thought, the song came on for me yesterday was Uncomfortably Numb, by Pink Floyd, I think it is. It's like we're numb to the chaos and the disjointed and the decay of religion and other systems that are pulling from esoteric thoughts and paradigms. All of it's meaning that we can't be who we're supposed to be, and what I believe, when you met those beings, they said, you are this step of quote unquote evolution, and you have to be like the stopgap here, because who you are and what you've been made to do, your frequency can hear and see the little glimmer of hope, that time is not finite, life is not contained to this earth realm, and that there is, life after death, like no one ever really dies, and those are concepts that have to be harbored and experienced and then shared in bite-sized packets. I've had to get this over years. So when I came to you, you didn't have to like break down much. You were just like, okay, he's here and he's ready, and hence why we went through the whole process, right? And so that leads me to just ask you then now, how do how does one go about even ascertaining like that there is a need for change, or that, what I'm saying, that there, because I didn't know until God said there's something else different, and then stuff started shifting so quickly I couldn't even like grab it to fix it myself. He was saying, don't
Right.
think, just move, just listen to me
Right.
and do what I tell you to do, and don't think. And when I stopped
Right.
thinking, it was like boom, you know. So anyways, how
Yes.
do people, is that just God? That's just how things work, or what is that? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So there, the Tibetans have a really sophisticated system of meditation, right?
Mm,
So they, and they call God suchness, right? So they've
mm,
given it this word. Um, and I'll just cycle back a little bit to your description of, the energy of source of God is too
mm,
much, right? We can't conceptualize it. We really
mm,
can't. And when you go into those, when you move your energy in such a way that you can connect with that Godhead,
mm,
you completely you change your energy, goes into this other state of being. Your
mm,
consciousness no longer can conceptualize. Okay,
mm,
it doesn't work the same way anymore because it's too big. It's
mm,
like this reality, this 3D reality, 3 or 4 or
mm,
5, depending on which earth you're on right now or how you conceptualize the type of life
mm,
you are living, and the moment to moment experience of that. When you
mm,
are connected to that God energy, you there's it's pretty much impossible to come back and say, this is God. Like it's going to be this
mm,
way, right? So there
mm,
it breaks down. But what you can say is it's a non-dual experience, and that's what a lot of meditators, how they refer to it, or they say that this is, you know, ultimate love, right?
mm,
Ultimate bodhicitta is another way to call it. That's heart mind. It's just ultimate consciousness, right? It's
mm,
infinity beyond infinity, right? There's too much there to really say that it's this way or that way. So it's beyond concept, right?
mm,
And so we
mm,
take that energy of that is that source energy, and then like you said, it feels like it drops down like a drop down transformer step down
Mm-hmm.
transformer, where that ultimate energy is then stepped down so that we can taste it. We can have a taste of it, right?
Let me tell you, so I've been differentiating between two of my angel voices, and Uriel is very very curt, very straight to the point, almost snide. But I asked him, I was like, why you let and it was like, because I don't have time. I don't have time to be. And so when it's the language, their frequency is being translated into our language. So the words
Right.
don't always match up. It's the feeling. So they're translating the thought through a medium, whether it's music, art, whatever, the trees, the nature, the elements, and translating it into words, 27 letters, you know, with limited meanings, because the Greeks had 4 meanings for every word. So it's like, imagine the work that has to get done to code that information for me to hear it, not from God, but from the angel. I mean, because I'm hearing God too, but it's like the angels are so specific. They're so specific because it's
Right.
like it's dialed down. See, God is saying just be faithful, or have hope, or keep believing with God. It's usually when you're at this third, fourth, whatever, fifth consciousness, you're hearing from the Lord, but it's like, just stick it out, or do this, or think about this, or ponder on this thing. When you go up higher, it's like it's direct sentences, and it's not a day later, it's not a week later, it's up to the moment, and it's that way because they want you actually to know that it's a direct transmission,
That's how you know,
and
right? Because it's so
right.
dense.
Hmm.
The message is,
You have to
there's
decipher
a
yourself.
lot to unpack. What's
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I said you have to decipher it yourself. When you have to decipher a word that you get yourself, then that's a clue that it's not yours. Obviously there's dark and light sources, and we have to differentiate and have discernment, but you understand that there is a difference in your own thought process, and that's
Yes.
maybe what could be the answer. What I believe asked you is, how do you start to think about these things, and how do you know you even need help? And I think one of the things we start to think about is, how deep are our thoughts, and how in tune are we with ourselves? And I think a lot of people get there at the most basic level by asking simple questions. Do I like myself? Do I like my body? And then you go through the experience, and most people stop at like, I like myself. You know what I'm saying? And like, I'm okay with that, But some
Yeah.
people go the extra, and they're like, what can I do with myself? Who is myself? What is myself capable of? Is myself capable of helping other people now? And you go on the progression based on the level of healing that you desire. And I believe this is almost an epiphany, but I believe some people don't desire complete healing because they're more comfortable with the pain of, expecting, what can hurt them, or what can come up. It's like, if you are talking to an entity that you have no understanding, it's like you're at their mercy and will. Like the other day, I have a thing with these angels, but a song comes up, and it's like, who do you think you are? Da, 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 da. It's like a Queen song. It's like, who do you think you are? Da, da, da. You just listen to me. And it's just like, all right, you know? So maybe you can give us a little, because we're coming to the end. How do people start to hear on the inside? How do they differentiate? How do you even know that you're not okay? How do you even know that you have trauma?
Yeah. Well, it's being real, and being honest with yourself. So appreciating that you have ego, right? That there's
Hmm.
this part of you that has created, and it has an aspect of you is egoic. It protects itself. It
Hmm.
wants to stay alive, right? This is the
Yep.
quality of that egoic presence. And so to be real and not be fearful of it, right? To
Hmm.
understand it from a higher perspective, that it was put there to help you have a human
Hmm.
life. But really, when you get the glimpse of that, it's a limited life, like you were
Mm-hmm.
saying, it's a limited existence, because ego doesn't like that God is there, right? God
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really, it's not ego. So ego wants a separate self. It doesn't want to be part of anything else. It wants to be separate. So start asking yourself, um, is this desire, what's the nature of this desire? Is it to create chaos and confusion, which is lower energy? Or is
Mm-hmm.
it to bring people together and to create wholeness? And you can
Mm-hmm.
even just, as you go through your any moment that you're experiencing, when you feel like drawn in some kind of excitement or interest in something,
Mm-hmm.
you can ask yourself that question and really sit with it and be quiet around it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to do things quickly because the ego wants us to do things really, really quickly and not
Mm-hmm.
and examine it's the nature of what you're wanting. And so it's not saying that we can't have a beautiful human life. We of course
Mm-hmm.
can, but it's more beautiful when we identify with all that we are and not just this limited self that ego likes. So that's one method to getting to know these higher aspects of who we are and what we can connect into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and so it's asking a good question about
Mm-hmm.
where's this coming from, and being curious about it and thoughtful about what you do with the information. All the songs you've been getting, you're looking at that from like, where is that coming from?
Mm-hmm.
How does it even get there? Part of it's a mystery too, right? We don't really understand totally how reality works and
Mm-hmm.
God's relationship or the angelic realm and how it relates. But we
Mm-hmm.
need to be curious about it. And our intention is pure,
Mm-hmm.
and we can ask and not be
Mm-hmm.
afraid of the answer, letting go of fear.
Mm. Well, I think one thing that I wanted to make sure I asked you about is, once you ascertain your need for, a higher connection or deeper connection, um, and those are good questions to ask. Why do you want a job, or why do you want a boyfriend or girlfriend? The most basic answer that everybody should be truthful about is that you just don't want to be alone.
Right.
You want companionship, and you answer God honestly and say, I don't need another person, but I want another person. I want
Right.
to share time. I want to share a laugh. I want to be surprised, And I think the mystery is in that journey, and the learning experience is the walking with God. It's
Mm-hmm.
the understanding that you are actually not in control. I think when we're in our first, second, and third levels of dimension, we think we're in control. And so what we're controlling is just a meaningless existence, and compared to something that's more cognitive, or more in tune with the quantum, technology that we actually have all around us. We should be telepathically communicating, instead of using words that are arbitrary, in a time and day and age, 2024. And so, what I guess a long way of saying is, once people come to the understanding that, okay, there's more, in terms of meditation, healing, modalities, Reiki touch, prayer, there's a lot of ways that I believe the Lord has shown people how to connect to a construct or a person which is totally foreign. You know, Once that happens, then what do you do? You know, and what are you supposed to? How are you supposed to see the world? Like, I guess the second part is what's going on with the world now. And how are we supposed to interact with it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a good guiding principle is this idea that we all come from God, right? All of our started with God. And
Mhm.
so we're in the oneness. A part of us actually is part of God right now, right? And
Right.
to know that and trust that, right? We are part of God. I mean, we're not separate in any way from God. Our human experience, however, we are in separation, at least physically. And so this goes back to, you know, when we have another that we want to be in relationship with, you know, and asking the question, why do I want to be in relationship with this person? You know, there's a good answer, or one that is because it brings me closer to God, you know, and how does it make me feel, you know, as opposed to, you know, do I want to be in this bad relationship, you know, this relationship that takes me farther away from God, because I don't learn much from this chaotic relationship, right? And so we can basically say that and ask that question or see that relationship with every single being, knowing that every single being, no matter who they are or what they've done, they do originate with God, right? That energy is not outside of God. When we place that energy outside of God, we misunderstand and misapprehend what that's about. But our relationship with that energy is more about what can we learn and what our wisdom is, where we are to heal, and can we be of service to that energy who might be lost. And so
No, you're an exciting person to hang out with, because everything you say is like, it's it's a triplicate of sorts. You said the mission, you know, and that's actually, when I went through some of my own sort of self-talk, you come to the conclusion, like, yeah, you have very basic levels of, you know, I like to use the old Christian terms of flesh, you know, but that ego is the same thing. It wants what it wants. So on the basic level, God, he knows you're just a kid and you want to play and have fun and have somebody to hug and snore with, you know, and annoy you and also excite you and encourage you to your greatest potential. It's like, at the end of the day, those two souls are actually supposed to become a union, which then becomes a whole nother dimensional thing altogether. You know, it's amazing what the creator's done, but when two souls come together that are vibing, they can do a lot more together than they can alone. And I think then when you start thinking that way, then the Lord and everything that's connected with it starts to be like, you know what, this guy or this girl, whoever, it's going to be very imperfect, but what they do is they do it with intentionality and they go where they're sent. They don't hem and haw. They don't bring it to its basic level, meaning like they think about what's supposed to be happening and then maybe they work around it. You know, that's what Saul did. He didn't kill the Amalekites. David killed everyone. We look at that as just a problem with God's character, and it's not. Every Amalekite was doing blood covenants and killing little children and doing what, you know, we see SRA and Illuminati do. That he was just going to wipe them out, but he didn't. He didn't see God's purpose. See, God's purposes are so much higher than ours that we can't see that base level. We have to go to, it's the universe, or it's humanity, or there are 20 people in our circle that will come and learn about you because they saw us thrive, you know, whatever it might be. And so maybe my thought or response to you is like, yeah, I think thinking about that higher cause allows us to sort of fix in engagement with the plans that are unfolding all around us.
yeah.
What do you think about that, Kim?
Yeah,
And
I think that's spot on. I mean, we can't know everything, right? That's not even our job. Our job is to
that's
just
true.
be responsible for the things we signed up to do and the things we are actually responsible for, and to not exceed our mandate. And so when we start acting in right relationship to the things that are ours, then we don't have to worry about what God's up to. We don't have to be responsible for God. That's not our job. And we can't even begin to imagine why things are happening the way they are, right? And to make sense of them. But what we can understand and what we can be in right relationship with is our own heart and our own behavior. And so when we do that and come into alignment and authenticity to the part of us that remembers that it's one, then when we can do that, we feel the best we're going to feel. We're responsible for the right amount of things. We are who we are supposed to be. And then we're happy because that's our natural state. You know, God didn't design us to be miserable or unhappy. That's a warning sign that something off, and what can I do to change it? And what is my responsibility and what is someone else's lesson for them, right? And it's to carve out those actions such that we're only associated with the things that are for us to learn and to grow from.
Nice. So then, wow, it's just 45 minutes. This is like the hypnosis thing. I'm just now getting into this. This is like we're an hour in now. This is part one, folks, by the way, and I'm preemptively taking another hour of Kimla's life. This has got to be part one because there's a lot that we've unpacked, and I don't think we've gotten to because I think what we're doing, and I think what the Lord is doing, and He's shown you a lot of this already, is He's building up people for this next season, like this next age. Like we're here already, but it's like the Bible talks about it. It's like the laborers are few, but the harvest is plenty. You know, it's like there are people that need to be saved. You know, Jesus saves, right? Like there are people that need healing. There are people that are in trouble, you know, financially, spiritually, mentally. Like people's lives are on the line, you know, like, and this life is more than just a read through. You know, this is important. This is just as important or even more important than our heavenly life because we got to learn a lot of stuff here before we get there. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why I think this is the tip of the iceberg. How do I end this? Can you pray for us and give us like maybe a couple like quick tips? Because we're gonna come back and talk about this again, but maybe you can just tell people how to start working, like just how to start like quieting themselves, like was it 5 minutes a day? They can start meditating or what's a little, you know, ease us in here.
Yeah. So I like to wake up every day. It's really good to do centering prayer or meditation first at the start of the day when the sun is rising. And when we are just coming out into a new day, you know, like it's a new start. We can start everything anew and we can be our highest and best selves at the start of the day. So we can put the past away. It doesn't even exist anymore. We can stay in the now moment. And so I would say when you first wake up, you'll just want to center into your heart. You know, it's an incredible tool, is our heart. It can guide us into perfect connection. It's got the most power of any organ and in our body. And if we focus our attention on our heart, so just do that with me right now. We focus our attention on our heart. And we see that as the source of all love and our portal really to the divine, to the God within us, with the Christ consciousness that is within us and everywhere else. And you just really feel into what that feels like, right? And the more you do that,
it's a yummy feeling. It's very creamy and soft for those.
It's like all the butter that you use in your business, I
Yes,
thought.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like you understand in a way how you are part of the divine, right? Because you are made from that. That is who you are. And so to know that every day that you wake up, what can undermine you? What can you know, what can get in your way of
Mm-hmm.
being that? You know, it's really trying to understand our true nature, and that we are that. It's coming into unity with that idea, with that concept, but it's more of a
Yep.
feeling, like you said. It's more of a feeling that we are that, and to trust that, like Luke Skywalker, right? Like,
Of
trust your
course. Yes.
feelings. Of
Mm-hmm.
course. And trusting that feeling, nothing, I mean, you know, you love your daughters more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that wisdom stored? It's stored in your heart. It's not in your mind. You can't prove it to anyone. It's stored here. And this is where we can connect every day and know the nature of love.
Amen. Well, Kim, I think yes, we're gonna have you again, and you almost put me out again. Literally, like when you start, I was like, oh wow, I feel a little heavy. So thanks again, and to any of you guys who are listening, watching, fall asleep, you know, she is a true hypnotist. So all she has to do is say a couple of words. It's amazing. She's so stay tuned, guys. There's more to come. Kim, can you tell us about your website before I leave, and just how can we find you, check you out, and read more about your process?
Sure. It's www.wheeloftimehypnosis.com.
Mm.
And there's lots of content on there. There's transcripts of sessions, that two with Micah, who was an angel. She remembered being an angel. There's another with a fella who is who came into understanding Christ consciousness during that session. It was incredibly powerful for him. And you can get a sense for what a session is like by reading through those. Maybe you'll allow me to post yours sometime, or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
you
want to
had
go
an
through
incredible,
it. I want to work. I want to work
yeah,
through that with you, and I have some questions. And as you know, things are ever folding, like up until the minute. So we will
yes,
be talking again. And for any of you guys listening, watching, check out her website. I'm gonna put it in the info and comments, etc. It's more than just hypnosis. It's more than just trauma care. I think it's lifestyle and heart change and posture and engagement with the future and the source. So thank you guys for tuning in. Kim, as always, a pleasure. Thank you.